Okay. A very good morning to one and all. I, Nidhi Chandorkar, welcome you once again to the 10 days virtual workshop on research methodology in social sciences, which is organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Bansangha's SM Shetty College of Science, Commerce and Management Studies. The workshop is sponsored by WRC's Indian Council of Social Science Research, ICSSR. During the earlier sessions, we learned how to do review of literature, collect and process data, and analyze it. Doing a good research does not reach its logical end till we document it. Writing a thesis is not only a structured process, but involves a great deal of creativity too. Therefore, this session is dedicated for understanding the minute details of thesis writing. So today's session is on writing of doctoral thesis, its components. The resource person for today is none other than our principal, Dr. Sridhara Shetty. Before I invite Sir to commence the session, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce him to the participants. Dr. Sridhara Shetty is a PhD in Commerce from the University of Mangalore and has teaching experience of more than 35 years. He is an approved PhD guide of the University of Mumbai in Faculty of Commerce and has successfully guided 4 PhD scholars. Presently, 8 scholars are pursuing their PhD under him. Sir is a trained assessor and peer team member of NAC. He is management nominee for the selection of post of principal and vice chancellor nominee for the selection of assistant professor at University of Mumbai. He has been appointed as convener of local inspection committees and various other committees by the university. He was the president of Association of Teachers of Commerce at Mangalore University for 3 years. He was also the president of Federation of Teachers of Commerce and Management of Karnataka State for 3 years. He is recipient of Y.G. Shetty Memorial Award in recognition towards extraordinary contribution in the field of education. He has been invited as keynote speaker for various conferences at state and national level, and he has also organized and presented in many conferences at state and national level. Under his able guidance, our college was accredited with A grade by NAC in the very first cycle in 2016. The college was awarded with Ramakrishna Bajaj Certificate of Merit. The college is now ISO 21001-2018 certified under his able guidance. Our college has received numerous other awards like Academic Excellence Award by Indus Foundation, Hyderabad and New Jersey, and Healthy Workplace Award by Arogya World under his leadership. Thank you, sir, for being there today for guiding our enthusiastic participants. Welcome, sir. Sir, it's over to you now. We can start.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
At the very outset, good morning to all of you. Thank you, Nidhi Chandorkar, for introducing me to the participants. Today is the 7th day of our research methodology workshop. So many vital areas of research methodology have been covered by the experts. And all these vital areas of research methodology are properly sequenced, logically arranged. And today I am going to take up writing doctoral thesis and its key components. By this time, you have listened, you have understood, and you have made reflective thinking on the various vital components of research. I think right from basics of research then research design, research methodology, review of literature, how to formulate the hypothesis, how to develop the objectives, then sampling techniques, how to determine the sample size, etc., etc. Vital areas have been covered so far. Now, almost you are in a position to start writing a doctoral thesis. And in the beginning, when Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University was giving his keynote address, he has given one beautiful sentence to you. Research process is always scientific and systematic. It is systematic and it is scientific. Systematic in the sense that logically we have to arrange the components of the doctoral thesis. And it should be done scientifically. The collection of the data, the processing of the data, and the use of the statistical methods, techniques, interpretation, etc., etc. Now, coming to the research process, choose the comfortable and competent domain for your research. I understand that our participants are belonging to not the heterogeneous group, not the homogeneous group, but the heterogeneous group. There may be teachers, professors from arts faculty, science and commerce faculty, and management faculty. Now, sociology may be comfortable and competent domain for a teacher, even political science, and commerce may be finance, marketing, HR. So these are the comfortable and competent domain of the teachers. For example, a teacher is continuously teaching marketing for the last 7-8 years. Marketing may be the comfortable and competent domain for a teacher. Likewise, finance or management. So choose the comfortable and competent domain. Competent in the sense you have some sort of grip over the topic or the subject. Next is, research starts with a problem of interest to the researcher and also to the community at the same time. A problem of interest to the researcher. For example, invariably a question is raised in the Viva. What prompted you to take up this particular area? Unless and until you have interest in that area, I think you would not have chosen that area. Therefore, research starts with a problem of interest to the researcher. And please see that that area is also useful to the community after your PhD in the form of research outcome, socially useful. So you should have a social and economic value and relevance. Now, choose a particular topic in the domain and you have to convert the topic into your research area. There is a difference between topic and title. Topic may be consumer behavior. Topic may be consumer behavior, but a title is different. So particular, afterwards you have to convert that domain area, that topic into researchable area. And finally, one important point one should note is that there is a difference between conventional research and non-conventional research. The question is, what do you mean by conventional research or non-conventional research? Go back to 20 years or 25 years or 30 years. When we were doing the research around 1995 or 2000, finding the fact or truth is the ultimate aim of research. And what is the contribution? Its contribution is to the knowledge, existing knowledge. That's all. That is conventional research. Then what do you mean by non-conventional research? Uncovering the facts that are hidden, suppressed, misunderstood. And this is actually the challenge area in the present day context. And not only addition to knowledge, but in addition to that, it should contribute to action and change. It should contribute to action and change. What do you mean by that? I'm always quoting one example because it is very close to my heart. The example is Profit at the Bottom of the Pyramid by R.K. Prahalad. Okay, Profit at the Bottom of the Pyramid. And it is non-conventional. He questioned the status quo and he brought the research, and ultimately the shampoo sales or the oil sales, whatever may be, I think increased manifold because of this research. Therefore, this research has led to action and also change. So your research has to lead to action, some kind of action, social action, or maybe economic action, and ultimately change should happen. For example, in India, malnutrition is a problem, especially in the rural areas. If a good researcher is doing research on that, a person from the sociology department and all that, you can come out with the concrete findings and you can submit to the policy makers. If it results in actions, proper actions and proper change, and there is actually a good contribution by you through your research. So this is what in by non-conventional research. In conventional research, we do the research and we keep one volume of our research or our book in the library. That's all. Adding to knowledge. But in the present day context, not only adding to knowledge, it should result in change and it should result in actions. So this is the research process. Title of the PhD thesis. I made it very clear, topic versus title. Topic is very wide: consumer behavior, job satisfaction, or working capital, etc., etc. This is the topic. And you have to the micro area and you have to fine tune it, and you have to narrow down and you have to formulate a title. Now, title should be, a smart title should be given. What do you mean by smart title? It should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be actionable, it should be relevant, and it should be timely, not outdated. A smart title should be given to your PhD thesis. Title should be comprehensive, complete, and catchy. Catchy in the sense that it should be attractive. The moment you read the title of a PhD thesis, it should catch your attention, and it should be comprehensive, and it should be amenable for a lot of insights and explanations. So that kind of title should be given to your PhD thesis. And ultimately, very important technical aspect, and the aspect is that title should be accepted by the doctoral committee. For example, you are doing your research affiliated to your university. What happens is, at the college level, the committee will endorse your title or your synopsis to the university. In the university, research review committee is there, subject-wise, area-wise. And the research committee will go through, scrutinize your synopsis, your title, etc. And ultimately, the title should be accepted by the research committee. So these are some of the aspects you should bear in mind. Your thesis should be conceptually strong. 1 point. It should be empirically sound. Operationally feasible. Politically correct. And socially relevant and useful. You have to keep all these points in your mind. Conceptually strong. Concepts are the building blocks of your thesis. For example, you are doing your research on training and development of human resources in a particular industry. So training, different types of training policies, the development which is meant for the higher level employees. These are the concepts. Marketing, the consumer behavior, consumer satisfaction, brand building, loyalty of the consumers or the customers. Strong concepts. Coming to finance, the what's called as the working capital needs. Why the industry is sick? What are the reasons for the sickness of the industry? All these of the concepts. So conceptually strong. And some of the concepts should be properly defined. Sometimes not only the main concepts, even the concepts related or the peripheral concepts can also be added in your research. This is what I mean by conceptually strong. Then empirically sound. For example, your research is based on 80% primary data, 20% secondary data collections. Right kind of data collections at the appropriate time. And from the right source, you have to collect it. Then you have to formulate the tables. Bivariate tables, multivariate tables, univariate tables, etc., etc. Then you are applying some percentage. Afterwards, you are applying even the statistical tools, methods, etc. And you are analyzing the data. And this is what in by your thesis should be empirically sound, operationally feasible. You are giving the findings in your thesis. You are giving tangible suggestions in your thesis. You are writing about the implications of your research. And you are giving the conclusions. And these should be executable properly. For example, you are recommending all these things. And this should be executed properly by the society, by the economy, by the policy makers, or by the NGOs. This is what I mean operationally feasible. Then politically correct. Politically correct means your thesis should be quite away from controversies. There should be proper clarity. So politically correct. And finally, socially relevant and useful. If your thesis is made up of all these components, and your thesis can be called as one of the best theses, one of the standard theses. Therefore, please bear in mind that your thesis should be conceptually strong, related to your thesis, empirically sound related to the data collection, its analysis into interpretations, etc. Operationally feasible, what you suggest, the findings, etc., practically executable. Politically correct, should be away from the controversies. And finally, it should be socially relevant and useful. Now, since we are dealing with the writing of doctoral thesis and its key components. Now coming to the introduction part of this. Should reflect the background of the study. Your introduction may stretch up to 1.5 page, 2 pages. Okay. And you should reflect the background of the study. Should reflect the entire thesis. Should provide bird's eye view of the thesis. So by reading 1.5 page, 2 pages of introduction, a good academician can understand, not only understand, visualize what are the things I can found in the next 250 pages or 300 pages. One will definitely get a clear idea with the help of this 1.5 page or 2 pages of introduction. Such a robust introduction you should try to provide in the beginning. It should reflect the entire thesis. It is possible by reading 2 pages of introduction to visualize the next 290 pages. It should reflect the background of the study. And it should provide bird's eye view of the thesis. And dear participants, try to use the sharp language. What do you mean by sharp language? If you are from sociology, political science, history, etc., different subjects have different languages. When you come to economics, language is different. When you come to law, language is different. Therefore, while writing the introduction of your thesis, use the sharp language. Is it possible to acquire such a language? To a certain extent, it is possible. For example, if you read some 8 to 10 theses of similar type or the nature, you can understand to a certain extent what type of language I can use in my thesis for my introduction. And introduction may be written at the end. Now, for the beginners, I told that it is very difficult to penetrate in the beginning into the research area. And my justification is that the introduction, you can give a draft in the beginning. Draft in the beginning. But ultimately, you understand the entire thesis at the end. Therefore, there would be much difference between what you have written in the beginning and what you are going to write at the end after understanding everything about research. Therefore, write in the beginning, but revisit it and refine it, update it, and you can write a beautiful introduction to your thesis. Here I would like to highlight one more point. Just visualize your research process, then writing the research thesis, its components. Now, there is a process actually. And this process consists of 4 stages. And these 4 stages would include input, transformation, output, and outcome. Input is nothing but all the ingredients you have used in your thesis. It may be the concepts which you have used, the review of literature, the research problem, research questions, hypothesis, objectives, and interpretation of the data. I think next is the transformation. And the transformation next would lead to the research output. Output is nothing but what you mean by the research thesis almost over. And outcome, output and outcome. Outcome means it should be socially relevant and useful. For example, our degree college students, BCom or BMS, or whatever may be the program, we secured 95% results or 100% results with a lot of distinctions and first class. And we say that this is our result. And this is a outcome. This is called as outcome. Output is totally different. For example, if our students are socially, ecologically, gender-wise, sensible and sensitive, very good decision makers, employment ready, etc., etc., this is, we call it as an educational outcome. Similarly, our research, the evaluation part, viva voce, etc., everybody praised it. This is output, but it should be socially relevant and useful. And ultimately, action should be taken on the basis of research. And on the basis of action, there should be change in the society and in the economy. This is what in by the total process of your research, inputs, transformation, output, and outcome. One minute, yeah, just a minute, just
Yes.
a minute.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, the next part is conceptual and theoretical background. Develop a conceptual framework within which results and discussions are presented later. Content and context should be matched. Concepts are the building blocks of the theory. Related theories can be quoted. Okay. Develop a conceptual framework within which later the research results and discussions are presented. What do you mean by conceptual framework? I think I made it very clear. For example, leadership theories. For example, you are doing research on leadership. There are various types of leadership. Various types of leadership. The training and development, consumer behavior and satisfaction, different concepts within which results and discussions are presented. Content and context should be matched. What do you mean by context? Context is nothing but your defined research area. So your defined research area and the content you are going to use should perfectly match. Concepts are the building blocks of the theory. Now the related theories can be quoted. What do you mean by the related theories can be quoted? Already I said that if you are doing research on the leadership style and all that, or if you want to give a different kind of leadership, then the currently prevailing leadership theories can be quoted. Maybe the what's called as the transactional type of leadership, the transformational type of leadership, the charismatic type of leadership, attributed type of leadership, then so many laissez-faire type of leadership, etc., etc. For example, you know about theory X, theory Y, theory Z. Suppose you are going to give altogether a different theory, then the basic and the fundamental principles of theory X, theory Y, theory Z can be quoted. Similarly, when you come across some theories related to your research, its relevance can be quoted in your research. So related theories can be quoted. Some technical problem is there. Yes. Now, review of literature. I think separate session was taken by Dr. Sudarshan, review of literature. Now, review of literature is an integral part and a very important part and a component of your research. As far as review of literature is concerned, we owe something to others. Give credit to the author. For example, we are referring 50, 60 authors and their research findings. So we owe something to others and we have to quote them. It means we have to give credit to the author wherever it is possible. Review of literature does not mean summarizing the studies and reporting them neutrally. No, does not mean summarizing. Sometimes we see in the thesis that you have quoted one author, next you have quoting another author, next quoting any author. You are making a kind of survey, that's all, nothing else. And you are reporting them neutrally without critical evaluation. Therefore, what is required in the review of literature is it should involve analysis of what the author has said, its a critical evaluation, and its relationship or its synthesis, its coordination to your research area. These three things should happen in the review of literature. Okay, it's analysis, what is said and all those things. It's a critical evaluation. And finally, you have to synthesize, you have to align to your research. This should take place in the review of literature. Be able to discover and identify the research problem has roots in the review of literature. Somewhere try to establish that your research problem has roots in the review of literature. Then it is scientifically correct and it is systematic. Be able to discover, identify, and your review of literature should reflect that the research problem has its strong roots in the review of literature, because research problem, research questions, the hypothesis, even the objectives, mainly the important source is nothing but the review of literature. Present the review of literature in a simple and easy to understand framework, in a readable way, one after the other. And if there are different categories, you categorize it. First category, second category, third category, fourth category. Maybe belonging to underdeveloped countries, developing countries, the developed countries, categorize it. Categorize it. And you have to give a brief summary at the end. And the intention of review of literature is to identify and properly define the research gap. So research gap is very important with the help of review of literature. Now the question is how to find the research gap. Okay. Now, one is under-researched area, unresearched area. The methodology adopted may be not relevant, and empirically not tested properly, so that you can conclude that the studies so far covered in my review of literature, no authoritative study has been taken place so far in this area. You can conclude no authoritative study has been taken in this area, which is conceptually strong, empirically sound, operationally feasible, and socially relevant. Or there are different views, or you can give different findings by using different techniques. So in this way, you can clearly identify and define the research gap, so that the evaluator, the peer readers, other readers in the library, they will find you have done a fantastic job as far as review of literature is concerned. Therefore, review of literature does not mean only the survey of review of literature, writing one after the other, one after the other. It should be analyzed, it should be evaluated, and finally, it should be synthesized to your research area. And try to expose all the areas so far you have evaluated that something is lacking, or I am going to use the different statistical tools and methods, and findings should be different. So in this way, you can justify your research gap. So this is what you mean by the research review of literature. The next area is hypothesis. Hypothesis. It is a tentative statement or proposition, and the validity of which is unknown. This is the simple meaning one can understand easily what in by hypothesis. And dear participants, there are two types of researchers. One is the quantitative research and other one is the qualitative research. And again, the participants have most of the time confusion what mean by quantitative research and what mean by qualitative research. In case of qualitative research, we are not using the data. In case of qualitative research, we are not using the data. We are using the concepts there. We are using the insights. We are using the experience. We are using the wisdom. And there cannot be, when there is no data, there cannot be hypothesis in case of qualitative research. For example, Jnanapita award is, they write a book for which Jnanapita is awarded 250 pages, 300 pages. It is nothing but their experience, their wisdom, their insights. There is no data. But in quantitative research, there would be data, there would be information, there would be facts. Empirical measurement is possible. We can evaluate it, we can quantify it, and their hypothesis is possible. So where hypothesis is required, where it is not required. So hypothesis is a tentative statement which you are making in the beginning. The validity in the beginning, which is not known, which is unknown. Now, from where you can get the source for developing the hypothesis? Sources of hypothesis. Theory. Theory is related to your thesis. And a very important source is review of literature. In the review of literature, you will come across all the variables related to your theory, your thesis, variables, which vary in size, in magnitude. For example, age, height, weight, income, which vary in size or in magnitude. Review of literature. Sometimes even the observations would be the source of hypothesis. Observations of the patients, observations of the consumers, observations of the customers, observations of the students, thousands and thousands. Observations. Sometimes even the intuition is nothing but the distilled part of your experience. Suddenly sometimes comes intuition. Then focus group interview. Focus group interview means you are throwing some of the area or your research area to 6 to 8 people. 6 to 8 experienced people who know about your thesis, the concepts, etc., sitting on a round table for nearly 1 hour or 1.5 hours. You, the researcher, or sometimes even the experienced man, enumerator, puts so many questions one after the other, one after the other, one after the other to these 6 to 8 people. You might have seen or watched the TV, a discussion is going on, and you will get better insights, better information. And if it is relevant, even that could be the area for developing the hypothesis. So the relevant theories related to your research area, extensive reading of review of literature and observations of the people, intuition, your own intuition, focus group interview. These are some of the areas or the sources from where you can develop your hypothesis. But the problem of our participants sometimes would be, their question is very small. So how many hypotheses required? in the thesis. There's no standard rule for that. But a standard thesis would contain 3 to 4 or maximum 5 hypotheses, sufficient. Repetition should be avoided. And there should be close relationship between your hypothesis and the objectives. And in case of hypothesis, we have to use the proper language. Proper language tends to be invariably, and you read some 8 to 10 research theses or the best of the journals from Indian Institute of Management or some best of the journals, go to the research articles. In that research publications, 1 to hypothesis you come across, and read the language, how they use it to develop the hypothesis. Then try to use that language in your hypothesis also. Don't simply write a statement. So this is about the sources of hypothesis. Importance of hypothesis in research. Provides a study with focus. If there are 3 hypotheses or 4 hypotheses or 5 hypotheses, your research is focusing on 5 areas, which is being tested afterwards, which may be proved or disproved later. So provides a particular focus on certain areas. It facilitates data collection, what to collect and what to not to collect. What to collect and what to not to collect. For example, there are 5 hypotheses, highest number of hypotheses. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Number 1 hypothesis demands this kind of data, this nature of data. Second one, this nature of data. Third, this nature of data, etc., etc. So that you can understand what to collect and what not to collect. And it helps in testing the theory. Next, the characteristics of sound hypothesis. Theoretical backed or supported. In one of the slides, I said that you get the hypothesis or the sources from the theory, review of literature, from the intuition, observations, focus group interview. So your hypothesis is theoretically backed or supported if you have taken from the sources which I have mentioned in one of the slides previously. Testable form, which can be tested with the statistical tools. It is tentative. Tentative means what you have developed in the beginning is tentative. Its validity is not known in the beginning, which can be proved or disproved later. And its validity should be in doubt. We don't know. Directional takes into a particular directional. Value neutral. You are not you are not giving the judgment in the beginning. And develop a complex hypothesis, not the simple one, not the superficial one. And it should evolve from research questions. Next is plan of action for research. Research design. Now, research design is nothing but a plan of action for research. It is a blueprint or master plan for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. So research design is a blueprint or master plan for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. Now coming to the analysis of data. Some of the areas of questioning include what type of data required. You have to question primary data, secondary data, to what an extent I need the data for my thesis. Where can the required data be found? Dear participants, I think many experts, known nationally and internationally, have discussed about this one simple question. Where can the required data be found? I think they have given different sources of data. And what period of time will be the study include? For example, collection of data. Okay. How much time you are going to devote? Is it 1 year? Is it 9 months? Is it 1.5 years? And you should be careful at the same time that after 1 year, the data which you gathered would become outdated. Be careful about that. So the time span of collection of data is also important. And what would be the sample size? Okay. In one of the sessions, Madam has taken one exclusive session on how to determine the sample size. And you must have understood, internalized this. And if you have not understood properly, but with the help of that knowledge, you can find out different books and read the books, and you can also determine the sample size. One thing, dear participants, one question usually asked in the White House examination is, what is your sample size? How do you justify your sample size? I request all the participants be clear about this question. What is the sample size? What is the formula you have used? And what is the justification you are going to give? Sample size. What technique of data collection will be used? In one of the sessions previously was exclusively meant for sampling techniques. And in that session, the expert might have dealt with the probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. Probability sampling, non-probability sampling. Sampling techniques, there are two things to understand. One, you are not understanding at all, or you can fully understand that. Probability sampling, non-probability sampling. Probability sampling, I think simple random, systematic random sampling method, then stratified random sampling method, then cluster sampling methods. And in case of probability sampling, you should have proper population, proper universe, and the population frame. Then only you can use the probability sampling. And non-probability sampling techniques would include the convenience sampling, the judgmental or purposive sampling, the quota sampling, and the snowball techniques. And these four methods can be used when you are not sure about the size of the population and population frame, you are not aware. It's not possible to get it. In such circumstances, you are going for non-probability sampling, which includes the convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, quota sampling, and the snowball technique. So sit with your guide or ask with the experts. This is my thesis, and the nature of data I am going to collect is belonging to this category, and what type of technique I should use. How will be the data analyzed? Once you get the data, sufficient information, then the organizing the data, coding the data, presenting the data in the tabular form. Sometimes for the beginners, even formulation of the table is difficult. Univariate table, only one variable. Bivariate table, two variables. Multivariate, more than two variables. Number, their status, their percentage, etc., etc. And the right kind of statistical methods, tools should be used so that you can get the statistical inferences properly. So how will be the data analyzed? And not only that, you have to write the explanation for each and every table. Dear participants, writing explanation is really an art as well as it's a skill. I will come to that point later. In what style will be the report be prepared? The entire report should be prepared. So this is about the research design. Then the objectives. Okay. Dear participants, there is a logical or there is a relationship between research problem. Research problem is always one. Research problem can be split into many research questions. Questions can be 3, 5, 6 like that. Research questions. Research problem, research questions, you have obtained it, source, review of literature, theories, etc., etc. On the basis of which you are developing hypothesis, 3, 4, 5. Again, research questions, research problem would be the base for developing the research objectives. Research objectives. So convert the statement of the research problems in the form of SMART objectives. I explained the background of the research objectives, how you can develop it. Again, the question among many participants, what would be the ideal number of research objectives? Ideal number of research objectives. Maybe 5, maybe 6, or maybe 6 only, can stop at 6, or maybe 7, not more than that, not 12, not 13, not 18. As our students write in examination, these are the advantages, 1 to 12, 13. These are the disadvantages. No. I used to say, when I was talking informally with my teachers, you might have seen a well of a temple, olden temple, olden well. And each and every stone of that well is properly dressed and connected to the other stones. In that way, it was built. Similarly, objectives should be logically arranged one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And the last objective of the thesis should be a concluding one. What you are going to say ultimately, your contribution. You are going to develop a different kind of theory. Theory X, theory Y, theory Z, one more theory. You are going to give a different model for poverty eradication, for malnutrition eradication, for improving the health of the people of the rural area. A different model, a concluding type at the end. So list out the specific objectives. And these objectives should reflect in in the coming subsequent chapters, one after the other, one after the other. Therefore, as far as the objectives are concerned, dear participants, think it. Think it. Write a draft, not one draft, 2, 3, maybe 4. Edit it, polish it, then update and fine tune it, then write in your thesis. In one sitting, it's not possible. You have to think, you have to write, you have to edit many times, you have to polish it with wordings properly, and update and fine tune it. So in that way, research objectives, because it is the core of your research. Sometimes the academicians, they just open the thesis and they directly go to research methodology or hypothesis or objectives. Now, while writing the objectives, the beginners, research aspirants, they will find it difficult how to start. Some of the usual concepts or the wordings which we use would include to analyze, to examine, to explain, to investigate, to know, to study, to describe, to find out, to understand, to explore. Depending upon your research, depending upon your particular objective, you have to use these wordings in the beginning. To study, to analyze, to evaluate, to understand, to examine, to provide, etc. So this is about the research objectives. Then research methodology. Research methodology. Questionnaire. I think one of the well-known resource person, Dr. Gupta from Delhi, has dealt with this questionnaire, how to prepare the questionnaire, how to develop the questionnaire. Sometimes observations also required, especially in case of consumer behaviors. From a distance, you can observe it. Or in highly developed mechanical systems and all that, even the machines kept in a distance, and the machine is going to record the overall behavior of the customer. Interviews. And my one suggestion to the participants is that today, because of the development of the technology, you are using the mail or this type of what's called as media for collection of the data. But wherever possible, at least go for a small sample of interviews, face to face. Because sometimes the conventional modern would give a perfect blend and synergy. So if you deal with some 25, 30, 50 very good people, and their knowledge, their experience, their insights, not only they are answering your questionnaire, in addition to that, they are providing some information, and that would be much better. Focus group interviews were required depending upon the nature of the study. Select some 6 to 8 people. Tell them well in advance that I am doing the research. And they should be the knowledgeable people in the particular area. And if you continuously ask questions to these people, one after the other, I think you will get a lot of information. For example, during the time of the union budget, and if the TV channel is a very neutral channel, and the people, 5 to 6 people, are unbiased about the political affiliations and the budget and all that. If they talk for 10 to 15 minutes, each of these people, and that would give a clear insight, clarity picture of the budget. This is what in by the focus group interviews. And if it is recorded properly, and if you listen to this recorded, you will develop a lot of insights. These are the traditional methods of research wherein we can gain the what's called as the knowledge from right from the horse's mouth. Then review documents also, statistical tools and techniques used. Now, we have arranged 2 such sessions for statistical tools and techniques. What happens practically? It's not a comment. Most of the time, the researchers do not know about that statistical tools. Leave apart how to use it. For example, arithmetic mean, median, or even the standard deviation variance, correlation analysis and regression analysis, F-test, T-test, then chi-square, ANOVA. At least one should have the basic knowledge about all this, at least a theoretical. What do you mean by that? And on your own using it is very difficult, I can understand. But choose a statistician in such a way that these tools which you are going to use should be properly compatible with your thesis. It should be taken care of. Whether I should use arithmetic mean or median. See, in case of income, in case of age, it is proved that median is more reliable than the arithmetic mean. So one should have the knowledge or choose a statistician who is in a position to understand the relationship of these statistical tools vis-a-vis your research area and the period of study. Period of the study also should be mentioned in your research methodology. I have taken this much of time for this. I have taken this much of time for administering the questionnaire. I have taken this much of time for organizing all this. And last 6 months, I have taken this much of time for my doctoral thesis writing. So research methodology. Then a need for the present study. You have to write need for the present study. How can you write it? See the justifications. Prove that your topic under researched area. And this can be done with the help of review of literature under researched area. Call for directions for further research given by the earlier researchers in your chosen field. In your chosen field, you have verified, referred some 8 to 10 research theses. One point you should bear in mind is that at the end, in your research also, you should give proper direction for further research or future research so that others can be benefited. In your research, you cannot cover everything, the universe, not possible. You are taking a micro area and you are doing research. All the areas cannot be covered. So other good researchers have mentioned that I have covered this much only. This I have not covered it. This can be covered by other aspirants. You might have chosen from there. Expose the current dilemmas, controversies in your field. You have chosen a field. Expose the current dilemmas, controversies in your field, and the potential ability of our research to resolve those issues. These are the dilemmas, ambiguities, controversies are there. Then I'm taking it up. And by doing the research, definitely I will give these solutions and all that, and that is useful to the society. And finally, assess the potential contributions of your study in terms of its utility to different stakeholders. And this is the need for the present study. Simply you're not doing it. You have proved that is under researched area. I have taken the area given by the previous researcher, and you can take it. And he has mentioned this area can be taken up by anybody, this which I have not covered in my research. The current dilemmas, controversies, and finally, by doing this research, this would be my contribution to the society, to the economy. Scope and limitations of the study. Again, one more component of our research. Time, energy, and resource constraints. One scope, resource constraints. For example, time, energy, and resource constraints. I think while dealing in sampling techniques, the researcher or the expert might have told about the census and the what's called as the research census. What do you mean by census? Census means all the people should be consulted. Census, all the people should be consulted. But in case of survey, only the representative are being covered. So covering the census, how much time is required, how much energy is required, and the resource constraints, traveling there, all these things. Clearly position your study within well-defined scope. Well-defined scope. State your inability to generalize the findings due to certain inherent limitations. For example, the research findings of Mumbai city may not be relevant to Nasik city or Nagpur. It is because of cross-cultural differences, not possible. Which is found in Mumbai city cannot be, we cannot replicate to the city of Delhi, not possible. So therefore, the findings you cannot generalize to the entire country, not possible. The solutions given to the farmers of Maharashtra cannot be the solutions to the farmers of Uttar Pradesh. Therefore, the findings of the particular city cannot be generalized to other cities. It is because of the cross-cultural, socio-economic differences. Clearly state the potential utility of your study. So the findings, inferences, and the conclusion reported cannot be generalized. It may not be a fair representation of the facts in other areas, and different results might be obtained with the different instruments of measurements, statistical tools and all that, and respondents from different strata of society. So this is the scope and limitations of the study. Now coming to the next one, scope and chapter classifications. Somewhere I told that 5 to 7 chapters ideal for a good standard thesis. Again, a question comes to our participants, 5 to 7 chapters, okay, sir. Then what about the number of pages? It should not be bulky. Okay. Each and every page of your thesis should be relevant and meaningful. And according to me, 275 to 300 pages would be more than sufficient. And some of the well-known economists, J.M. Keynes, Crowther, etc., I think their PhD thesis consists of around 50 pages only. And each and every paragraph, I think we have to read twice or thrice to understand the meaning of that. So in the Indian context, or in the present day context here, 275 to 300 pages are ideal for a good standard thesis. Chapter 1 is always a technical and introduction. You write the introductory part of that. You write the conceptual framework. You write the theoretical background, etc., etc. Chapter 2 normally presents an overview of the background information of our thesis. And chapter 3 onwards, the core chapters of the thesis. 3, 4, 5, 6 core chapters. 6, of course, the concluding chapter. 3, 4, 5, the core chapters where you give the findings. Again, the findings would be reflected in the concluding chapter also in the format of a summary. So this is about the chapter classification of your research thesis. Coming to the last chapter, capsule summary of the results. Results you find in chapter 3, chapter 4. There are 6 chapters, chapter 5. A small capsule summary should be given. Major findings of the core chapters also should be given. 1 paragraph, major findings of the core chapters. Major implications also should be given. Tangible and specific suggestions should be mentioned. And finally, as I said previously, directions for further research. I could connect, cover this area, these are the areas and all that. Because of these reasons, I could not cover these factors. Therefore, this is a very good area for further research or for future research. And within the punchline or within a punchline or in a punchline statement, within the commas, you can provide that directions for further research. Directions for further research is one of the ingredients of a good research. And finally, final conclusions. So, dear student participants, we have started with a meaningful beginning, introduction on all those areas, and constructive middle and conclusive end. So in the last chapter, capsule summary of the results, major findings of the core chapters, major implications, tangible and specific suggestions, directions for further research, and finally conclusions, maybe in 1 page or 1.5 page. Then preparatory or formality part. Preparatory or formality part, which is found in the beginning of the thesis. Title page. You are mentioning the title. Research supervisor. Your own designations. And to which university you are submitting, and the college address, etc., etc. The title page. Certificate of statement by you and by your research supervisor. You are giving the certificate that my thesis is not part of any other research or project, etc. You are certifying it. Your guide or research supervisor is also guiding it. I mean, certifying it. Very important. And in the present day thesis, which the UGC insits, or which is called as ethics in research, the plagiarism certificate. It should be there. Otherwise, it is not accepted. Then, dear participants, acknowledgement. Acknowledgement for your guide, for your institutions, for UGC, for university. So co-guides, you and your family members. One list. To all, you owe a lot for your research. Acknowledgement. Table of contents. You might have developed some 30, 35, 40 tables. And each and every table should be numbered. So tables. Table of contents, table of list of tables, then figures, graphs, photos, etc. And I don't know, in Maharashtra, sometimes we write executive summary, or we write in proper technical word preface, maybe 2 pages, maybe 3 pages, depending upon the university, depending upon your research supervisor. A brief summary of about your research preface. So these things are the preparatory or the formality part in the beginning. Now, my interaction with my teachers, research scholars, this is one area where the scholars find it difficult in the beginning. In case of research, the supervisor should also be strong academically, research-wise. Even the scholar should also come up to the level so that there would be perfect synergy between the two. In case of table, see you are getting the raw data, you are organizing the data, then based on that, you are preparing the table. Okay. And in the table, you may find or accommodate one variable, univariate table, two variables, bivariate, and you may accommodate more than two variables and its multivariate tables. And below you have to write the source from where you got the numbers, the data. It may be compiled data, or it may be the field survey data. It should be mentioned below each and every table. Then giving explanation to the table requires some kind of insight, some kind of intelligence, and some kind of skill. You have to give the explanation for each and every table. Now, what kind of explanation you can give? What kind of explanation? For example, in a bivariate table, you have adopted only the percentage, for example, only the percentage. Okay, only the percentage. Then you can pick 3 things from that table. One is the high percentage, that should be mentioned in the form of explanation. The low percentage, it means that research wise, no significance at all. And other one, high percentage, overwhelmingly high percentage. And also select the middlemost one. So you can write 3 to 4 sentences there itself. High percentage, low percentage, the middle one. Not sufficient. Based on the low, high, and middle, you have to give a concluding remarks to that table. How can you write the concluding remarks? Again, you can use a proper language there. Now see the examples I have written here. For example, hence it may be concluded. I have mentioned the high, low, the middle. See, for example, age group between 40 to 50 are buying the product maximum. Therefore, it may be concluded that age group 40 to 50 is very important, which involved overwhelmingly in the buying of that product. So it may be concluded. Or you can write, from this means above 3 sentences, it follows that you are concluding the table. This bears sufficient testimony that 67% highest percentage belonging to that category. The most prominent group in this table, this shows that on the whole, it could be stated that, thus I conclude, this tends to reveal that further it is worth noting highest percentage. Hence, these are some of the types you can use to conclude each and every table. So this is about the explanations to be given to the tables. And use the latest style of bibliography or references. I think in this case, the expert is going to give the guidance to you. So my time is almost up. Thank you so much to the participants. Since I am the principal of the college, I'm highly thankful to you for responding our invitation and attending 3 sessions in a day is not that easy, in spite of your busy schedule in your respective institutions. So in spite of that, you have attended and you have raised the qualitative questions. I hope you got the right kind of information, knowledge, wisdom by attending this 10 days research methodology workshop. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Principal Sir, for this wonderful session. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah,
Yes,
you are audible.
Pradeep.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So there are already a few questions in the chat box. I would also request the participants, if they have any more questions, they can put it up in the chat box. So, sir, I'll take up the questions.
Yeah.
Janita has asked, sir, can there be sub-hypothesis for main hypothesis? Subsections maybe of the hypothesis of the main hypothesis. Can we show it like that?
Can you repeat the question, Preeti?
Yes. So they have asked, can there be sub-hypothesis for main hypothesis?
Usually, it is not shown like that. Hypotheses are numbered.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And in a standard hypothesis, research thesis, good hypothesis, sub-hypotheses are usually not shown.
Normally it is null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. That way it is shown, right, sir?
That is a different way. That is a different
Okay.
way. Yeah. That is related to the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Another question, sir. Reshmi ma'am is asking, is there a difference between the theoretical background of the study and ROL, review of literature?
Yeah. Yes. Research methodology is different and a theoretical background is different. Theoretical background means, I think I might have told, for example, you are developing one more altogether a new theory, X, Y, Z. Based on that, you are developing a new theory, something new. In such cases, you can quote these theories. You are doing research on leadership styles and all those things. whatever theories right now you have, you can quote those theories. And theoretical background, research methodology, altogether different.
Thank you, sir. There's not a question actually, but sir has asked for suggestions for good reference books for academic writing. Any reference book if you could suggest?
I think there is a session for that. I think. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I think the query will be resolved specifically in detail in that session. So I think so that's it relating to the questions. We have taken up all the questions in the chat box. Apart from this also, participants, if you have any questions, please you can put it up in the chat box, or if the question is long enough, you can raise your hand. We can enable you to unmute and ask the question yourself as well. But I think the session you gave was very self-explanatory. You explained it very well, so I don't think they'll have much of questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, thank you, Principal Sir. And to the knowledge of the participants, we have an exclusive session related to academic writing right now by Satish Sir. So, after this, we will be having that. And Preeti, you can go ahead with.
Yes, ma'am. So once again, good morning to one and all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for today's session of the 10-day program on the research methodology in social sciences. I, Assistant Professor Preeti Mitharu, on behalf of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Bansangha's SM Shetty College of Science, Commerce and Management Studies, extend a sincere gratitude to our resource person for the session, that is Dr. Sridhara Shetty, for his valuable insights. Sir, it was indeed a very knowledgeable and engaging session. You have covered a lot of things in detail. You have not only given details in relating to the quantity, also the quality. You've covered both the aspects actually, the quality as well as the quantity relating to the number of pages, what all content should be there. So very detailed, in a detailed manner you have covered it. I am sure by highlighting all these areas, the participants will be, will deeply benefit from this session. And as always, sir, it is always a pleasure listening to you. Also, I would like to thank the participants for joining our session, and I request the participants to stay back for the next session as informed by Liji ma'am. So I think we will start in another 10 minutes by 11:45, Liji ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Preeti.